Well, hello everyone, welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. On today's video, I'm going to be trying to change one of these slots on my favorite 286 motherboard. If you've seen some of my videos recently where I've gushed all over this 286 motherboard, which I love, it was on PC 1 megahertz video, it was on the video where I swapped out all the SIM sockets for, well, SIP sockets for SIM sockets, and I've done a lot of other fooling around on this thing. But this thing has a broken slot. It's been like this since I got it. We zoom in a little further here. This slot here, someone must have yanked a card out of it. This was before I even got the motherboard. And when they did it, it actually cracked the slot right along the edge here. Now I've put a bunch of colored marker on there just to remind me that that's the one that is broken. But I did actually use some CA glue and I glued this back together. So it's no longer broken. You know, see there, if I push on it, nothing happens. Problem is when it did break, the pins here in the ISA slot got bent over so far that they don't make good contact with cards anymore. Now, I tried to bend these back a little bit, and the problem is well, if I do that, it pushes them right out of their little guides. And when I push them back, it might be too late now. I might have just damaged it. Well, generally, if you try to push them back, if you get them back in, oh, well, you know what? That might actually work, maybe? I mean, there should be that much gap there. So basically the way these work is they are springs, and when they're released, they're actually pushed up against a little stop. This is a little T-stop right here. But notice these two here, I can still push on these. Now, the way they're supposed to be, they don't move at all when you push on the backs here, but these ones all do. So if we take a card, and we're just gonna use like this one as an example here, when I stick this in, notice these ones, they're all gonna move when I push this down. See how they move? So I'll just see that? But the ones over here, well, they move ever so slightly, especially that one there that I bent, but these ones don't really move. And unfortunately, they don't really make good contact. So anytime I stick something into this slot, it doesn't really work properly. And well, I kept running into issues where I didn't notice that. Plug a video card in, it wasn't working. And I thought there was something wrong with the motherboard or my cards, and I was chasing my tail on that. And it was patrons who pointed out, hey, that's the bad slot. You keep using the bad slot. And I was like, ugh. So that's when I used a marker to at least draw on it so it's a little more obvious. But you know what? I need to swap it out. I want to use this motherboard. I want to keep using this motherboard, that is, but I don't want to keep putting cards in there where I forget that that's the bad slot and like it's not working and I get all upset or whatever. So I think you could still buy these slots new, but I don't know if they're good quality or where you get them from or whatnot. But I have plenty of scrap motherboards. So I used a blowtorch to remove some of the slots from a dead motherboard that I had in the garage. And these are from the 80s, so they're really good quality and they're not corroded or anything. And I think that these will be perfect candidates, or one of these will be perfect candidate to go back onto this motherboard. Now, one of the problems with using a blowtorch to remove things is you get a lot of solder splatter, as you can see here. Now, this one I've sort of cleaned up a little bit, but these two are, yeah, they're in rough shape. Do these have dates? 1987. Nice. Okay, so these are, I think this motherboard's from 1990, so these are a few years older than that. I can probably clean these up, but I'm not sure I necessarily need to because I happen to have a whole bunch more scrap PC motherboards, probably 6 or 7 of them that have ISA slots in them. So I could take those off there. I was really experimenting with using a blowtorch and a lot of heat, which damaged the motherboard, but the motherboard was beyond fixing anyway, so it didn't matter that I damaged it. And well, these came off really, really easily. I just heated it up and then I banged the motherboard and then these flew out of there. And all that splatter was par for the course, I guess, when you do it that way. Now for the one here that I cleaned, and I'm putting that in quotes, you see a little bit of burn marks because I used the desoldering iron to try to suck some of the solder out from in between the pins. I don't think what we see here is gonna be any kind of issue. I tried to make sure there was no loose little bits of solder around, and looks like there's one right there. I don't really see it, but I think I took it off. Oh, is that it right there? Nope, and that's a little bit of melted solder. Now the problem is with this is it melts and then, sorry, out of focus there. It melts and it gets stuck into the plastic. So it's really quite difficult to remove, but it also means it's probably not just going to fall away onto the motherboard, which is good. And I just needed to make sure that none of these pins are shorted together, and yep, definitely none of these are. There's another little piece there. Just knock that off. Yep, little bits falling off all around. Anyhow, I think this is going to be just fine to install into this motherboard. It's going to look a little different, but it's going to work. So I think just like with the SIP sockets, I'm going to have to use a ton of hot air on this one slot here to get it off. You won't just be able to use a desoldering iron, even if you use something like the Hakko here. The bodge wire, by the way, is for the clock relocation. It used to be over here, and now I have it over here on this part of the motherboard. So I've marked the motherboard for the slot that's going to be coming off. It's this one right here. And I have the heat gun here set for 350 degrees Celsius. And this thing is set for, I don't know, about that as well. And let's see how this goes. Oh yeah, well, that worked, but one of the issues, and I forgot about this, is because I don't have two hands and I don't have something to clamp this, I need to put something heavy on this so it doesn't move around. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a mouse pad down. That helps already. And then I'm gonna take this bench vise and I'm just gonna put it on there. And yeah, that's much better now, much better. All right, here we go again. I did just the first hole right there. I apologize for all of the blocking I'm gonna have of the camera, and we're gonna have a little time lapse here. So if you get to know your desoldering iron, when you hit one that doesn't desolder, you can actually tell by the sound. And this was one of those pins. There we go. Let's try over here. That one didn't work. That one didn't work either. So I just reflow those. That one worked now. The tone or the frequency of the pump is different. If it's jammed or not, like these are all working. I think the signal ones are all going to be fine. It's the ones that are on the ground or 5 volt. That one didn't work. 5 volt or ground are going to not work. And we just have to add a little fresh solder onto them. There we go, higher pitched. I think everything, is mostly desoldered, but I doubt it's actually the case because I can't heat it from the other side. So I want to wiggle each one of the pins here and look to see if they wiggle easily. And if it doesn't, then it probably means that it's still connected on the other side. And any of the ground or 5 volt pins or whatever other voltage pins, but most likely ground, are going to be the ones that are problematic like that. The signal wires, they don't really hold on that tightly. So that one on the end, usually it's the one on the ends. Oops, I'll need to add some more fresh solder here. Right, so this one on the end. I don't even think that did it. Let's try again. More heat. So heat the board. Maybe? Let's see. Nope, it's still connected. The one across from it, closer to me, is fine. Now, one thing I can do is I just cut this in the middle, on the other side, of course, on the slot, so I can extract the 16-bit portion separate from the 8-bit portion. So far, so good, except for this one pin over here. Yep. Okay. Let's attack that one more time. I need to see it move. Okay, how about now? No, that still is not budging. Wow. Okay, there we go. It's finally free. So everything on the 16-bit slot is free. Okay, right off the bat, the first pin on the end of the 8-bit slot is stuck. Unfortunately, this is the kind of tedious thing you just have to go through to try to get a slot out. It is not easy. Okay. Is it? It's moving. Nah, I think that's still stuck. Okay, there, just broke free. That one's fine. Once we have most of these free, what we can do is wiggle the slot on the other side, and then we can just watch to see which pins are not moving. This one is, that one is acting up. Make sure I do the right one here. Yeah, that's free now. Ah, the one next to it as well. Heat. Yep. So those are good. Oh, that one's not even desoldered. That's my bad. Okay. Okay. It's just this. I can't imagine trying to do this on the whole board. It would be very long and tedious. Doable, but tedious. Got one more here on the end. I think the end is always like the ground or whatever. No, it's still on there. It is still on there. Heat. Apply heat. Oops, I just bent the pin over. Oh dear, I think I broke it off. That's not good. Yeah, I broke it. I applied too much pressure to it. All right, well, we'll see what happens when we wiggle the whole slot. The one next to it is also stuck in place. Okay. I think we're nearly there. We're nearly there. It's almost ready to come out. Yes, it is this much work to get one slot out. Okay. Move the weight, and I'm going to, well, first I'll put the hot air away. Don't think we need that anymore. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It wobbles very easily, so take it out, check it out. I think everything except this pin right here, they're all moving. They're all moving. No, you know what? They're all moving, and look at that. Check it out, everyone. There it is. It came right out. All right. And even the one that I broke the pin on, that one came out as well. Yep, that was that pin right there. I snapped it off, but luckily I got it out. Cool. So now it is definitely time to inspect. Look at that. Look at that. It looks perfect under there. Just make sure it's nice and clean. Copyright 1990 KS8 300 Rev 2D. Okay. And you definitely need to look for any kind of damage on this side. So I need to clean this with a little IPA. Now I have some hot glue holding down this bodge, so I'm gonna avoid that. This will also take away, by the way, this Sharpie marker I drew on there. No, I didn't use any flux or anything. I simply just, yeah, used the desoldering. You saw what I did. And things look pretty good here, I'd say. Things look pretty good. There's a little bit of flux here and there where I had to apply some fresh solder to try to clean it. Yeah, no damage. You want to make sure you didn't damage any of the traces that are adjacent to things. But I've been doing this long enough. Essentially, the technique I do is I hook onto one of the pins and I don't push down hard on the motherboard, but I hold it onto the pin on the side and I wait for it to move. You can feel it release and then move, and then you wiggle it while you're desoldering. That's the kind of technique that I use. Okay, that looks good. And how about over here? This looks really good as well. No damage to the board. Yeah, this looks freaking awesome. Oops, a lot of fluff on there. Yep, that looks spectacular. Now the question is, will this fit on there? Now some of these pins are kind of bent. This obviously has some kind of spring tension that holds it in, but I just need to make sure that none of these pins are bent over, so that one of them is a little bit. Just need to try to gently get this into the slot here. All right, one side goes in. How about the other side? What's holding up this side? Oh, that side goes in as well. Oh, you can't really see what I'm doing. So one side goes in, the other side goes in, but it doesn't feel like it wants to go in. It doesn't quite feel like it wants to go in entirely. Now, I can see a little bit of something I got to remove there. There we go. Yeah, it's kind of hanging up somewhere. What I'm going to do is just make sure every hole on the top side here is nice and clean. So it's definitely in right here. See, it's all the way up against the motherboard. Something over here is causing it to hang up a little bit. I'm just looking here for bent pins. This one here. One of them has the end kind of folded over a little bit. Let's fix that. Okay, see, it goes in over there. It holds up in the middle. Something in the middle is keeping it from going. Oh, there we go. There we go. It is in. Nice. Now you have to be careful not to push too hard because you can actually push these contacts straight out of the slot. And that didn't happen. It has a different color. Let's check the other side. Let's see if everything looks good. Yep. All the pins are in. Just looking for any pins that aren't in, and you can kind of feel if something were wrong. Yeah, there we go. Ha! All right, I shouldn't count my chickens yet until I've actually got this in the board and tested. But so far so good. And I'm going to switch to the pine sill. I have much more precision with this device. All right, here we go. We're ready to go. I'm just gonna start first on a couple pins, and I just wanna make sure that this thing, I'm just gonna literally do 2 pins. Just one more double check that it is all the way down on the board. Oh yeah, that is all the way down. It cannot move any further. So I think we're ready to go. Now I have to be careful about the ones that take a lot of heat. So I'm gonna leave the ends till last. I'm just gonna go through and do the rest. Time-lapse time. It's all soldered in. I just forgot to do one joint over here, but it's always good to inspect your work afterwards. And using magnifying glass, you can just make sure that nothing is shorted together, like none of the pins are shorted. It's got some flux on there, but that's not a problem. Look at that. Oh no, it's this one. You can tell it looks different. It looks good. Looks freaking good. It's in there. It's nice and solid. It's the same height. Well, it's a little bit lower than the other slots, but shouldn't cause an issue. Now it's time to test. We'll just go right for the video card here. Make sure that this goes into that slot. That's it right there. Does it go in? Oh yeah, it clicks in nicely. Capture device is connected, power supply is connected. And here we go. Nice, freaking working. So much better than it was before where it wasn't working at all. Let's get this thing booted up into an OS. Let's get this booted into an OS. So I have the controller with the compact flash card and then my RAM test combo card here. Let's get this connected up. Okay, power this on. Is it gonna boot? It is booting. Nice, nice, nice. Look at this slot. Someone damaged it. I can't blame the slot. It's not its fault for being rudely snapped, you know, someone yanking cards out or whatever was happening. You know what, this motherboard's been through a lot. I've sort of put it through a lot, but I think it's gonna boot. There's the RAM test. All right, XTIDE going for boot. And what we'll do is we will do some kind of graphics test on here. All right, looks good. I'm gonna run the horizontal retrace test. That does not work on this video card. Okay, I was looking for something to run that's gonna like continually update this screen. Ooh, you know what's gonna work well? Let's reboot the computer. Let's go to the RAM test. And the reason why is once the RAM test starts running, the option ROM version, it's going to use the VGA card as the stack pointer. So while it's testing the memory, I should wobble this card around. And if there's a bad connection in the ISA slot, let's run the RAM test, hitting T, there it goes. So if there's any kind of bad connection, then I think it should crash. Wobbling this around, it's fine. Lifting the thing up from the card itself. Yeah, sweet, okay. Well, that's definitely fixed. Okay, well, there we go. One fixed motherboard. I got this slot out of there, so it won't cause any more issues for me. I'll put that in the dead parts bin. And we have a fully slotted up motherboard where all the slots work properly. And you know, the only thing I could do is add this 16-bit little piece here, but I don't think that's actually a good idea because if I have a card like I'm thinking what card, the CGA card, I think, it actually requires an 8-bit slot because the PCB goes down in this area. And it's possible that the socket for the CPU is gonna be too high and it might hit that. So this slot's the only one that doesn't have, say, the CPU in the way. Therefore, that might be good to leave that as is. And then I have a total of 5 16-bit slots, which is fine. I think I shouldn't really need more than that. Better than I had before with only 4, because I was sort of running into issues before trying to get the cards into the right position where I had that bad one right in the middle of the motherboard. If it was like this one on the end, it might not be so bad. But the fact that it's was right in the center here, yeah, that was causing issues. But anyhow, there we go. This thing is all fixed up. And what I really wanted to show by this video, I know it's a short one here, is just the technique I use to remove stuff from the board. So if you want to remove a slot, my recommendation is hot air, 350 degrees, and a desoldering iron, also 350 degrees. And you just learn the sound of your desoldering iron and you go through the pins. And when you hear that it didn't clean it out properly, just add a little bit more fresh solder, keep the heat on there, and then you should be able to get that clean. And then once you're done, I use the chip lifter tool, which I misplaced, but you saw what I was using. The end of that tool is sort of perfect because it comes to a point with 2 little hooks, and you can get that around the pin and use that to wobble the pin, and it's just perfect to see if you've gotten them all loose. And you know what? They were all loose, and this thing just came right out of the board. And in case you're wondering if I warped the board by applying heat to it, no. There's no warp at all that I can see. I mean, the board is slightly warped probably from when it was in a case for who knows how long, but the heat itself that I applied in that one spot didn't really cause any kind of issues. So there we go. If you like this video, thumbs up. If you didn't, you know what to do. Thanks to my patrons. Names are going up beside the screen. They make it possible to do this full time, and you know, all the usual YouTube junk, thumbs up, subscribe, etc., etc. And I think that's going to be that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.